Okay. I'm gonna wait 15 more seconds so I can cleanly cut at 3 minutes in. Nothing I say in the next few seconds counts. It will be forgotten to history entirely. Hello there. Welcome to the stream. This is SHADOWBOX beta version 1.1, and I'm gonna live stream what's new in the game. This update was just released on Friday. Today is Monday, so you can go and download this game for free right now and get the exact version of the game that you're looking at right here. I'm not playing my developer's build. This is running through my Steam account, and it is available for free, so you can go into the description of this video, click on the Steam page, and as long as you have a Windows PC, you can download it. I'll say right off the bat that we are working on support for different platforms, which include Linux as well as Mac. Those things are not quite ready yet, so right now we are only available on Windows. That is something that will be addressed in future updates, hopefully sooner rather than later, but the caveat that I have to give at the beginning of each of these streams is as follows. I'm a paleontologist. I'm relying on friends of mine who have more experience in software development than I do to help out with this. All of this is being done through the generous support of my supporters on Patreon. So right behind where you spawn, there is a QR code that you can scan with your phone that brings you to the site where you can plug in to help donate, to help push this stuff forward. There's other disclaimers here as well that kind of elucidate what exactly is going here in this project, but this is available for free, so if you want to help kind of push this stuff forward, help support me while I work on this, signing up for the Patreon is the best way to do that. For just $3 a month, you'll be able to get a new article every single week that kind of explains a new aspect of either an extinct species or living wildlife. You're going to see some examples of what will be in future updates, future articles in this video that are currently in the game. For $6 a month, you get to send me as many questions as you want, and I will answer them in semi-regular digest, the Q&As, and then for $12 a month, which is the most popular support tier, and I really appreciate everyone who's on there, you get to see the videos that I shoot in the field the same day that I shoot them. So when I'm out excavating fossils, some of which you will see on display here in SHADOWBOX, while I'm doing that work, I'm recording, and then at the end of the day, I cut the video and upload it onto an unlisted link on YouTube for patrons to subscribe. We've got a question. I've been a huge fan of this game, but do you plan to add the popular dig site formations like the Hell Creek? Absolutely. I can go into a little bit which of the formations are currently available. So in this room, we've got all the different crypts. Some of them do not have any exhibits in them yet, and then we have a small selection: the Martin and the Devonian, the Naco and the Carboniferous, the Coconino Sandstone and the Permian, the Chinle Formation and the Triassic, the Turney Ranch, Moreno Hill, and Menifee formations of the Cretaceous. That's what's currently available. So the Hell Creek, of course, would be one of the exhibits here in the Cretaceous. And I do have some specimen photography of Cretaceous dig sites that are in the Geological Eras tour, which is what a lot of this update is going to be looking at. But as far as, doing stuff in, for example, Hell Creek, or here in the Jurassic, we obviously have the very famous Morrison Formation. These are all definitely on my list of things to cover. The reason that I've selected the exhibits that are currently available has everything to do with what's in my immediate proximity. I'm basically working with what's near me. I'm based in Tucson, Arizona, and working in local collections and then moving outwards. So right now, I'm working on covering stuff in primarily either stuff that I've excavated that's in my personal collection, or things that are in public collections here in Arizona, which is why we have representations of the Turney Ranch, which is in Arizona. The Atarki Sandstone is coming. That's in nearby New Mexico. The Cliff House Sandstone is coming. That's also in New Mexico. These two are also in New Mexico, but their fossils are based in Arizona. The Chinle, which this exhibit is going to get a lot more love, don't worry about that. It could be much bigger, there's a lot of material. That's in all across the Southwest. The Moen Kopi, which is coming this year, is an Arizona early Triassic exhibit. The Coconina Sandstone, Naco, and Martin Formation, these are all based in Arizona. So yeah, fossils of T-Rex and Onsu and all kinds of other stuff, Triceratops, Pachycephalosaurus, those would all definitely go in the Hell Creek. And I'm looking forward to someday building that exhibit, but the collections that have Hell Creek stuff that are available for me to scan are right now a little bit out of my way. There's some in California that I can access hopefully soon. And then there's major collections in Montana and in the Dakotas. A lot of America's fossil material is all kept out on the East Coast. I live where the fossils actually come from, but the collections tend to be sent elsewhere. So unfortunately that means the Hell Creek material is a little bit out of my way, but it is on the list, so don't worry about that. In this update, beta 1.1, there is a bug fix. I'm going to see if I can recreate what used to cause the problem. So right here, you would be stuck in this screen, the inspect screen, if you inspected something while you were in the inspection radius of an object and then fell out of it. This is like the only place that you could do that, and it would make you stuck. You can just exit out of that now. As you just saw, you sometimes randomly get launched up when running into things. I'm working on it. The movement system is going to be overhauled, as I've said. I am kind of building this, keeping in mind that people want to run and jump on exhibits, want to be able to vault over stuff, and the early priority is just getting the performance to be better so that it's not kind of pointless to if it's just going to give you a headache trying to run and jump on stuff, there's not a point to it. So I'm prioritizing performance first, but we're getting in some improvements in the movement system. Yeah, there is quite a bit of Allosaurus material in the Morrison. The Morrison Formation was actually the first geological formation I ever did a dig in. In the summer of 2007, when I was 8 years old, I did a week in the Morrison, and I actually got to take home a tiny chip of an Allosaurus tooth, so that was really special. A lot of the improvements to SHADOWBOX in this update have been in the Geological Areas tour. I wanted to add in a lot of extra content. This area compared to the lobby has kind of the least amount of polish, as far as just like the architecture is not all that complex. I did not find any Torovosaurus material, no. I was told that one of the teeth that I picked up likely belonged to Ornitholestes, which I think is really cool. Because of course I was only a year or two old when the classic BBC Walking with Dinosaurs came out, so my idea of the Morrison at that time was really shaped by those films. So you'll notice right off the bat here at the entrance, we have I've included some of my wildlife photography, mostly reptiles, because that's what I have really good photos of. This guy was a wild animal that I encountered out on Menifee Expedition last year. Wild prairie rattlesnake. This guy, the bee and the globe mallow was also out, as well as actually the collar lizard too. Those were all out while I was digging up fossils. So I've got a couple of examples of modern stuff. I have so much more photography that's going to get crammed in here eventually. The big concern with this particular room, because it's such a long level, is to make sure that, again, performance is a concern here. So at some point, as I get better tools to make this program run better on mid-tier PCs, and hopefully bring down the minimum requirements as much as I can. I don't know that this will ever be playable on like a Chromebook, you know, but I'll do my best. So right now I'm focusing on just making sure the content is there, you know, the exact like, oh, this wall texture could be better. I think people would rather that I work on the content and that kind of thing. I made sure to put in here at the beginning because a lot of people know the term Anthropocene and might be curious as to know why it's not part. Oops, I exited the level. Give me a second. People are familiar with this term, the Anthropocene, and might be curious to know why it's not included in the Geological Eras tour. And so the summary is essentially that while the term has gotten a lot of use in kind of a sociological application, it makes a lot of sense to people that the modern era is, of course, heavily influenced by human activity. That's where the name comes from. Anthro, meaning human. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily an applicable concept in stratigraphy. And so just to make this point, the boundary between the Pleistocene and the Holocene, so where I'm standing right now, we're in the Holocene. This part is not to scale because it only encompasses the last roughly 12,000 years. So the scale actually starts when this text appears over here. So the boundary between the Anthropocene and the Holocene would be at fewer than 100 years ago. And the smallest increment that I can show at the exhibit at this scale is over here, 0.01 million years, which would be 10,000. So it would be basically the Anthropocene section would be the tiniest little sliver that wouldn't even be visible on here. It encompasses such a tiny fraction of time. Yeah, Torvosaurus is a really cool animal. Suchomimus and Carnotaurus are also really cool. I've seen some material. I've seen a mount of Carnotaurus, some original fossils of Torvosaurus. I'd love to see the mount of Suchomimus. Over here, I'll just kind of walk down the Eras tour and kind of point out some of the new things. So there's lots of specimen photos that I've uploaded, and I've tried to include as often as I can these different illustrations of kind of depicting the anatomy of a specimen, pointing out what the different pieces are, because the isolated bone is not necessarily easy to discern. And as we go further and further back, you'll notice all kinds of new additions. There's the megalodon tooth up there, and I don't have a card yet. So each of these cards that you see are images that I make during my Fossil Friday and Wildlife Wednesday releases. So if you are subscribed to my Patreon, patreon.com/ptpaleo, it's listed on like every single one of these somewhere at least. For $3 a month, you get one of these articles per week, which includes not just the text, the explanation, but also these different diagrams. And of course, there will be a more sophisticated way these are integrated into the exhibit. This is just the very earliest iteration. There's more megalodon. So for the animals that I don't have those pages ready for yet, it's just got a label and then a picture of the fossil. So if you'd like some insight into what articles may be coming down the pipeline this year, for example, all these White River mammals, Hyenodon, Hyrachodon, Diphonius, Pobrotherium, all these ones that don't have those pages yet, those are in progress of being worked on. So if you subscribe, you'll get early access to seeing all that stuff. Also, I'm going to point out that there is a known lighting error in this exhibit where some of the specimen photos are like lit on both sides. Some of them are not. These are two-sided planes for people who know how Unreal works. These are two-sided planes with static lighting throughout the room. I have experimented with different textures and different lighting settings, and I have not been able to figure out what the correlation between whether they're lit on both sides or not is. So if you have any insights to that, please reach out. My email is listed in the game, but it's ptpaleo@proton.me. So we're hanging around in the Oligocene. I've got a couple extra photos of stuff from the Green River. I'll also point out that the exhibit on the Green River Formation is something that I'm going to have available this year. It's not going to have tons of scans like the Chinle. There's some really impressive material from the Green River, but the stuff I have access to is going to look a little bit different. I have fragments of some broken fish fossils that are in incredible shape, but don't necessarily have the full skeleton available. So I'm interested in sharing that material because it shows what fossils actually look like more often than not when they're coming out of the ground. I'm so glad to have, there's certain eras that I only have a couple of specimen photos to even use. So here in the Paleocene, I've only got the one tooth of plated Coerops. This is a primate from France. I have a question in the chat. Have you seen any Spinosaurus fossils before? I have. I have handled them before. I've got photos, and we'll work on getting some scans. I don't have any major material that I can scan or show quite yet. I would have to travel to Europe, actually, to get some of that. But yeah, Spinosaurus teeth are extremely common. I'll point out here in the Cretaceous some of the new stuff. The juvenile T-Rex tooth up there is a new one. The Hoploscaphites over there. Polyglyphanodon right there. There's some glamour shots of that guy. Squalocorax, some teeth. And here we've got teleported to the Menifee Formation. So here in the Eras Tour, we're at about 83 million years ago. I will point out that the Menifee Formation is anywhere from 78.5, so from about here to about here. That's the range of the Menifee Formation. So don't read too much into the exact placement of where this stuff goes, but one of the new features of in beta 1.1 is adding teleporters to the different crypt exhibits into the Eras Tour so that you can go directly from one to the other. So if you wanted to see more fossils from that particular time period, here you are in the Menifee Formation. Here's all the different petrified trees that I have scanned. And by the way, this is a known bug that the inspect on these things is totally borked. It's pretty hard to get that oriented correctly, so we're working on that too. So here's the Menifee. Yes, correct, you did see a Velociraptor skull. That is one of the specimens that I have photographed. So someday, when I go and do a collections visit at to the American Museum, I'm hoping that I'll get the chance to scan and make some exhibits with not just Velociraptor, but Astesia and Con, all the different dinosaurs, kind of harkening back to that time. We go a little bit further down, and we've got the Moreno Hill Formation. I've done a lot of work on the Moreno Hill stuff in this last year. And again, there's a connection right here, so you can go directly from the Eras Tour now to the Moreno Hill Formation if you want to see more about that. There's not a lot changed in each of these. Those updates are still forthcoming, but, you know. Hey, it's a dorsal vert of Nothronicus, isn't that cool? There are dinosaur fossils. And now say if I wanted to jump back a little bit in time, if you don't want to be walking all the way back in the Eras Tour, and we will be working on a teleportation system to allow you to kind of skip to the parts that you want to see. But say I want to go way back in the Eras Tour, I can just go into the Devonian section. Here's the Martin Formation and all those fossils. And now we can just teleport directly to the Devonian period here. We'll wait for it to load a little bit. Yeah, the Field Museum has a reconstructed model of Spinosaurus. I think, and I know a couple of people who are there at the Field Museum. I do not know if they have much original material. They do have that mount that you're referring to. And one of the kind of constraints for what you are legally allowed to scan is that the original fossil cannot be copyrighted, whereas an artistic reconstruction can absolutely be considered someone's intellectual property. So I could not, for example, walk into the Field Museum and 3D scan that Spinosaurus skeleton that's on display, because that is a piece of art that somebody made. Whereas I could go to the original material as long as it's in a public collection, and I would be allowed to scan that original stuff and then make my own reconstruction. So we jump to the Devonian really quick. There's some photos of some ancient fish. Not just Dunkleosteus, of course, is here. This is an incredible specimen. Bothriolepis. This guy up here. Eusthenopteron. Our Martin Formation stuff. Eastmanosteus. This is one of the coolest and also kind of goofiest fossils I've ever seen. He's got this really funny smile. Eastmanosteus is a relative of Dunkleosteus, but it's very, very small. Got Pterychthyodes. Cordania, some trilobites. The Silurian's a little lonely right now, but we've got our Eurypterid. Stratocaris. This is a really interesting guy. I'm looking forward to doing more work on that. Jump down to the Ordovician. We've got Isotellus, big trilobites. And this guy was already here, Flexocalamine. I've added our Graptolites. Didymograptis. I will point out, I am aware that this one is invisible on one side. I've already fixed that. Again, this is not the dev build. I'm playing right now the version of SHADOWBOX that's available through Steam. So in beta 1.15, which we're already working on, I've already fixed that. But for now, if you go there, Didymograptis is invisible on one side. Dosha, and then way in the back there's the Ediacaran stuff. Yeah, I heard that a trailer's coming out soon. I couldn't tell you what on earth, what they're gonna do with that franchise moving forward. I don't know. Hopefully something new. Oh, I should also shout out the fact that in this update, we've also gotten controller support added. So if you prefer to play the game on an Xbox controller or on a PlayStation controller, you can now do that plugged into your PC. There is partial support for a Steam controller, but it's not fully implemented yet. So if you have a Steam controller, you can do certain things. Not all of it is integrated, though. Just got that lagged hardcore there for a second. Yeah, we'll see if they ever choose to implement more scientifically accurate designs. Part of what, you know, as I said, artistic recreations of fossils are copyrightable. So the Spinosaurus that was seen on screen in Jurassic Park 3, Universal is, I think, pretty likely going to hold on to that design because it's something they have copyright of. The new model, you know, they could make a new model, revamped model based off of the new material that's been dug up, but because I think as a production they're pretty concerned with their merchandising, their brand and stuff like that. I think they're probably pretty likely to stick to what they've already had. I'd love to be proven wrong on that. Here we've got some mid-Cretaceous Brazilian insects, some really interesting stuff. Grasshopper relative, crane fly. I think probably my favorite addition right now is the Confuciusornis. So you can get up real close to see details on the skeleton of this dinosaur. Really cool stuff. And then if you really want to see what's going on, there's of course additional photography over there. There's a tooth of Sarcosuchus. Getting back to the Jurassic down here, some stuff. We've got the horseshoe crab, this cool crustacean. There's Torvosaurus we were talking about earlier. That's a tooth of Torvosaurus. Some other Torvosaurus fossils I got to photograph. This little reptile jaw here. Megalosaurus is already there. I've added, these are teeth of Laparentosaurus, which is a sauropod from Madagascar. My Cryolophosaurus skull illustration, and then photographs I have of the original. I think the photographs are cool enough on their own, but it doesn't always translate to audiences. So right now I've got my illustration in there. Skull of Van Clevia, and as an Arizonan and as someone who spent as much time as I have digging in the Triassic, I have so little right now on display in the Triassic. It's quite shameful. I will be working on adding way more photos and scans in the Triassic. Don't worry about that. There's Arizonosaurus. And our stuff in the Coconino Sandstone. All of our tracks. Whoa. And these remain some of my favorite scans, honestly, because it just seemed so unlikely to me that I could get a footprint to 3D scan properly, and yet there they are. Pretty cool stuff. Let's jump back to the Permian. In the next update, in 1.15, I will definitely be adding a variety of different loading screens. So I have this running on an SSD, so it is loading levels pretty quickly for me. I know for other people it's a little bit longer, so I'm going to make sure to have loading screens that have lots of little fun facts on them, so you have something to read while waiting for different levels to load. And then we've got our Carboniferous. So I did a little bit of touching up here, but there's still obviously a lot to go. And now we are kind of back to where we were. There's the Devonian down there. So that's a lot of what the additions are in this update. Revamped stuff in the Eras Tour, connections between these formation, the crypt exhibits, and the Geological Eras Tour, so you can get a better idea of where each of these stand in time. All of these exhibits are going to be worked on over the course of early access for SHADOWBOX. So if you have feedback about any particular thing, that stuff is always warranted. You can go onto the Steam forum to lobby those things. I want to shout out, I really enjoyed doing this last time, and so I'd love to shout out some of the data that I have on where SHADOWBOX players are. Obviously, a lot of what's on display right now is very close to home to me. It's all Arizona, New Mexico kind of local fossils, and then photos of things that are in museums that are close to me or in places that I visited recently. But people are able to access the software and look at it all around the world. So even though the majority, I should say the plurality of SHADOWBOX players right now are based in the USA, there are several places, and I'm going to list them off, that have at least 2 or more players. So in addition to the USA, the countries of Russia, Germany, the UK, Brazil, Indonesia, Australia, France, China, Canada, the Netherlands, Poland, Belgium, Italy, Ukraine, and Turkey all have at least 2 players. And in addition to that, the following countries have at least 1 player, at least 1 person has downloaded this game and played it in the following countries: Iraq, Malaysia, Greece, Taiwan, Chile, Hong Kong, Hungary, Argentina, Finland, Saudi Arabia, Serbia, the Philippines, Romania, Switzerland, Austria, Colombia, Bulgaria, Vietnam, Sweden, India, Estonia, Czechia, and South Korea. So there are players who have been accessing this stuff and exploring fossils all around the world, and I think that is just really, really awesome, especially because I haven't been able to include very much non-English language support. That just tells me that people all around the world love fossils, love seeing dinosaurs and learning about the common history that we have, because paleontology, natural history, the story of Earth and life itself, that belongs to all of us, and it goes across national boundaries. And I'm more than happy to share the natural history of the American Southwest, where I live and where I've grown up, with people internationally, and at an affordable price, which is free. And again, if you would like to help me out, if you'd like to throw me a few bucks to help continue doing this stuff, patreon.com/ptpaleo is really kind of the best place to keep informed with what I'm up to and to help me continue building this stuff. I also cannot wait to add the Hell Creek. I'm hoping to have that. I shouldn't make promises that I can't keep. I'd love to say that I can have that, at least the first Hell Creek iteration available in the next few years. I don't actually know that for sure, but I guarantee that I'm at least I'm doing my best. I'm going to see what I can add. But in the meantime, what I've already promised for sure in 2025 are the Moen Kopi, so you'll get to see some early Triassic stuff from Arizona, the Atarki Sandstone, the Cliff House Sandstone, and the Cretaceous, as well as the Eocene Green River Formation. And hopefully a lot more than that. One more thing before I forget, because this was an important thing to figure out, is that we now have customizable controls. Ooh, resume. So now, if I prefer to inspect with Q, I can now press Q to examine, and press Q to exit. So we now have fully customizable controls. It integrates with the text in the actual game. So yeah, that was the other major fix. So we've got new stuff in the Eras Tour for you to enjoy. We've got controller support and customizable controls, as well as some minor bug fixes. And next time, I'm hoping to have some loading screens added. I'm not sure if the next exhibit opening will be in this next iteration, but you know, my expedition donors on Patreon get to see an exclusive dev stream as I work on stuff in the background. So if you're really curious to see how things are adapting week by week, that is the way that you can support and plug in. Do we have any other questions or comments before I conclude the stream here today? Thank you so much for watching and for sticking around and sharing comments. I really appreciate that. I'm going to be adding many more scans to this section over here as well. Let's see how much parkour I can do in my own set. Can I, let's see if I can peek out. Oh yeah, there we go. Clip through the wall here. Da, 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 da. Specialty galleries. There will be extra things in this space. The first one that will be released is an exhibit exploring real, fake, and phony fossils to kind of help you tell the difference. Yeah, I am privy to some new research out on Allosaurus. There is controversy, of course, as far as whether each species is recognized, but in the last few years there's been A lot of new information out on it. Allosaurus fragilis is, of course, the most common. Jim Madsoni was just finally published on fairly recently. There was a paper out in the last 6 months on the validity of the European Allosaurus, which is being held up as a valid species, and then Saurophaganax, which was sometimes considered its own thing, its own genus, sometimes considered a species of Allosaurus, has been revised. Some of the material in the Saurophaganax holotype is probably sauropod fossils, and when you remove when you remove the non-theropod fossils and you just have the sauropod, or other way around, remove the sauropod fossils, you just have the theropod. It could be that Allosaurus maximus, formerly Saurophaganax maximus, is still its own species. Now I'll just point out here in the Chinle, there is so much more to show in this. This is just a work in progress. If you are one of my friends at the Petrified Forest and you're like, this is all you got on the Chinle, don't worry. There will be much more. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the stream there. Again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for keeping up with the development of this program. If you would like to, again, play this for yourself, if you've got a Windows PC, you can go to the Steam page in the description and download the game for free. If you've got feedback or suggestions you want to leave, you can utilize the Steam forums. You can also send an email to me at ptpaleo@proton.me is the inbox for that. And I will, until next time. Thanks for watching.